Hi, I'm Chad. You're watching Squarebody Stuff. So what we got going on is I've got the heads mounted on the block. I just got a few bolts in there, just kind of just a little more than hand tightened on there. I didn't torque anything down because the gaskets I'm using, the Felpro permanent torque, they're already pretty much compressed. I think they compressed to 40 thousandths and they measured 45 thousandths before I stuck them on here. So that's not going to make any difference really. But our goal here is to make sure, since my gaskets are matched to my heads, I want to make sure whenever I bolt the heads on and do everything final assembly and also gasket match my intake, that the gasket is going to stay in the same exact place every time. Now, I've done a video like this when I was building the small block 339 in Squeaky there. I had one comment that I don't think I even responded to it because it was one of those comments that just didn't need a response. They said, why even do the locating like I'm going to do, which I'll explain more of that later, if your bolts will locate the gasket. As you can see, if anybody's ever put intake gaskets on, you've got a lot of room around each hole for your gasket. It can move around a lot and still bolt go through it. So you can't just use the bolts to locate your gasket. First, let me go over what I've got here. This is a Speedmaster dual plane intake, a copy of the Elderbrock Performer RPM air gap. Decent intake. I've had this thing sitting on a shelf or hanging on the wall for probably 5-6 years maybe. I intended on putting it on the big block that's in my crew cab, buddy. It just never made it on there, so now it's going to go on this big block. So it does look a little dirty, but it is actually brand new. It's just been sitting around. So what we're going to do is mount this intake on the block and the heads to and I've got the gaskets glued in, which the glue I use is some contact cement. Now you can use Permatex, the RTV or something like that, but it takes a long time for it to really set up and hold the gaskets in place. This contact cement, it's almost instant if you use it right to get the gaskets to stay exactly where you want them. Because I don't want these guys moving around any, I want them to stay right where they're at. So what I've got here is I've got marks, a center punch there. I got a punch kind of in 4 different spots. And what I'll be doing is drilling an 1/8 inch hole and using these little 1/8 inch pins. They're just pieces of 1/8 inch stock. There's nothing special. Once I drill those and I pull the intake back off, I can locate the gasket exactly where it's at in relationship to the intake and all that. I can locate it to the intake and transfer my lines that way whenever I bolt everything together. Final assembly, but the steps will be put the gasket on, put the intake on, put these pins in, because you can't put the pins on before you put the intake on, they just won't work. But you'll locate everything before you tighten the bolts down. Alright, we'll set the intake on. The gasket should move. And what I'll do is I'll just kind of wiggle the intake around a little bit till it sits down right where it needs to be. And I'll look down through the holes, make sure I'm centered this way and the other way. I mean, side to side you can't do much because it's kind of nestled down in there. It won't move. But you can move it front to back to make sure you're centered front to back. Both sides look okay-ish. I'm going to cheat a little bit to the front. So this is what we got. That's about where it needs to be. I'm not going to put all the bolts in. I'm probably going to put 4 or 6 bolts in there. Torque them down, maybe not to the actual torque spec, just so the intake doesn't move at all. Alright, so I just worked my way around on those 4 bolts to get it tight. And you can see the bolt holes are still lining up good. This is another Now, this is a good time to check your ends to see how much gap you got there where we don't have any interference, just in case you might have to have some machining done on your intake. This end looks okay too. Now I'll use the drill and drill those holes. And the issue I had with the big blocks, the small blocks are a little easier because the intake gaskets are a little more uniform from front to back. The big blocks got spaces that don't reach where it's easy to drill a hole. So that's why I had to put these down here. You know, it'd been a whole lot easier to put them way up here, but there's no gasket material up here. This one's kind of an odd spot, but all these are for is to locate the gasket in relationship to the cylinder head and the intake once you go to final assembly, or when you're trying to match it up for gasket matching. Then we just drill our holes. Another thing is you don't want to drill too deep because you don't want to end up into a water jacket. If that happened, not the end of the world. Weld it up or plug it or something like that and start over. But because these holes, once the engine's assembly, they're just going to be open holes. I'm not going to like put anything in them. I guess I could put a little silicone in the hole, but I'm not going to worry about it. But anyways, just drill maybe 1/8 of an inch or so into the head, and I'm going to do the other 3, and then I'll show you what it looks like when we pull the intake back off and locate the gaskets on the intake. I got the intake back off. You can see where our holes landed. We've got good positions for gasket. Now this is a time, you know, if you didn't drill deep enough, you could drill a little bit deeper if you wanted to. I went just a little bit deeper on this hole. That way you get a good location on your head. And I also went through and on the holes on the intake, used one of these bits to kind of chamfer the edges. Yeah, I'm gonna pull the intake gaskets off. Hopefully my rubber cement will release without destroying the gasket. All right. Let's get this other one off. Now, put our gasket on there. Stick the pins in. And this is exactly the way it's going to be while it's on the engine. Mount to the cylinder head, you can see I've got a lot of work to do. But that's what this is all about. Getting these things located exactly where they were on the engine, and then that way we can get an exact port match. Now if I would have just tried to line these up, now the holes do line up. I'm not sure if you can see that. Now the holes line up pretty good for the gasket to the intake manifold, you know, but you never know for sure. So this is the best way that I know of to make sure you get an almost perfect gasket match. I'm also going to chamfer the holes on the head a little bit. Not a bunch, just a little. And don't worry about all the metal shavings, because this thing is going to be all tore back down, completely cleaned before final assembly. Because I still got to go through and chamfer the top of the cylinders on the block to match the cylinder heads, just like I did on the 339. But that'll be a whole nother video, so just stay tuned for that, because that's kind of interesting. I'm gonna get some die chem on this intake, mark out my lines, and get to grinding. Alright, now we just put our pins in. And I just noticed something. Look at that mismatch. I may have to break out the TIG welder and build that material up. This one's fine. This one's a little bit low, but this one needs, this one and this one definitely needs some material up there. So this other side is fine. There's none of them that's too low. This one's close. I mean, it's just flush. So I just won't be able to take anything off of the intake on this top. But that other side, I really need to do something about that. So I think I'm going to weld it up, add material to it, and go from there. And that's what you get when you buy cheap Chinese stuff. Not everything's the way it needs to be. It would be nice to have an Edelbrock intake here to see if it's any different, or if it's any better, or if it may have same issue or another issue. So this is what we got right now, and I got to address the issue because I'm not buying another intake. The easiest thing for me to do is weld this thing up. Well, it took a little bit. I'm way out of practice with the aluminum welding. My machine's not the best, but I got it figured out. This side I've already kind of ground down and cleaned up, and then added just another bead to the outside edge to build that up. This side is just raw welding. It don't look pretty, but we're not worried about pretty with this kind of welding. We're just worried about building stuff up. I've got plenty of material in this port now, plenty of material in this port now to do what I need to do. Now if you look at this one, I've already got started on one port before I started welding. I wanted to kind of see what these ports are going to look like. Things look a little different right now, don't they? That's because the footage you've seen up to this point in this video was shot about 6 months ago. Well, this spring. Anyhow, I got busy. I did get some stuff done on the big block after that video, before I stopped on this project, that I didn't get filmed. I went to edit the footage, and where it stopped off, it just stopped off. I didn't have any footage of me grinding the intake or doing any of that, so I don't know if I just didn't do it, lost it, whatever. So this is where we're taking back off with the port matching the intake gaskets. So got the intake all done up, and it's been sitting in this bag. Well, the intake hadn't, but it's been sitting like this for about 6 months. I have checked on it, make sure it didn't turn into a big rust ball, but it's good. So let me show you what I've done in this intake and get this video wrapped up, and hopefully in the near future we'll be seeing more of the big block project. So I've done a little work on the inlet, throat, whatever you want to call this. Matched it to the spacer I'm going to be using. Blended in the divider wall, dropped it down a little bit. Got that done. And we've also got all the intake ports done. Guess I still need to kind of clean up the edges a little bit. And got all of them done. Let's get the plastic off this. And I have to find the intake gaskets, and I'll show you how it all lines up and the kind of process I'll use whenever I go to bolt this thing on for the last final assembly. And for final assembly, once you get everything all matched up the way you like it, I'll put my RTV around the coolant ports, RTV wherever you feel comfortable putting RTV, and I'll put my pins in and kind of let that set up a little bit. Do the same thing on this side. That way your your intake gas will kind of stay where it needs to. It'll be a little bit glued in place. Then we'll put once that kind of sets up a little bit, we'll put our RTV on the China wall, pull the pins out, and set the intake on. All right, there's one pin there. And another pin there. And do the same thing on the other side. Obviously, if you had them glued down, it'd be a whole lot easier to line up. I'll be showing you that when we go to final assemble this engine on down the road. So stay tuned. Keep your eyes peeled for more videos of this big block. That way we get ready for Creampuff, my 79 C10. The old 350 in him is getting a little bit tired. Smokes a little bit more than it used to. But anyhow, stay tuned. We appreciate you watching. Hopefully this video didn't mess you guys up too much. And yeah, we're back. We're going to be making some more videos. And in the meantime, been putting out some shorts and reels of the 383 stroker project for the Corvette. We got a little bit left to do that. We've got the parts and everything. So be watching for the video on that. We're not going to do a whole lot as far as the engine work, but maybe if you do some video of getting it back in the car, and test driving it, playing around with it. Because hopefully we'll have it done by next weekend, which will be November 8th. Because at Rogersville, or Ozark Raceway Park in Rogersville, the track I always go to, it'll be their last test and tune ride-along night. I think they're going to have another test and tune night the following Sunday, but this Sunday, or Saturday, excuse me. But this Saturday will be the last ride-along night. So I'm going to try to be there with Squeaky. We're going to try to have the Corvette there. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get anybody else to show up, but if you want to show up at Rogersville November 8th, 2025, so if you're seeing this 10 years from now, don't show up November 8th. Anyhow, but if you show up, we're giving rides in Squeaky. There'll be no nitrous, just all motor, but it's still a lot of fun to take a ride down the track, and that old truck, it's fun to ride in. So if you can make it, Ozark Raceway Park, November 8th, 2025. Hopefully we'll see you there. And you can have your own Squeaky experience. All right, I'm going to wrap this video up. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Check out our merch website, squarebodystuff.shop. Find your hats. I do have these patches that you can iron on your shirts if you want to. We got stickers, all that good stuff. So go check that out. And until next time, y'all keep your square bodies rolling. We'll catch you later.